Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Punish for Protecting. I'm live today with Marty Lynch. Marty is going to talk to us today about two very, very important subjects. One, regarding something that I talk about all the time, and I really want to drill it home, so I'm hoping that Marty will be able to do that for all of you out there, to know your rights in regards to our Constitution. This is something that is very important, and I appreciate you all sharing this live feed so that more and more people can be informed about something that the family courts and even what we call child predator services are violating in our entire nation regarding our families. And also, he's going to be talking about the stats today about the amount of families or amount of people that are committing suicide, all thanks to the family courts and their destruction. Marty is a public speaker, and I'm actually going to turn this right over to him. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you, Marty. Thank you so much for being on Punish for Protecting today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Marty, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you got involved in our wonderful family court system.
Well, I'm not too different from most everybody else, that I'm going through life thinking that things are okay, fine, and all of a sudden one day I wind up with this pile, 100 pages of paper, handed to me by a processor, okay? And so I'm going, oh my goodness, what do I do with this? So I give it to an attorney. I say, well, I spend good money, and I should get some value for my money, and so here, take care of it. And that just didn't happen. Okay, the more money I threw at the thing, the worse it got. Okay, so since my background is process engineering, I go, okay, well, this is the kind of stuff I've worked on all my life, and so it's like, let's try to figure this out. Let's try to fix this thing. And if it's happening to me, it's got to be happening to everybody else. Okay, and it turns out it's more widespread than I even imagined. And then people that are supposed to be out there as guardians of our liberties, as guardians of the Constitution, turns out, well, they're just here to make money, and the mayhem, the plunder, and the pillaging. Well, that all of us experience. That's just cost of doing business for these people. So it's like, oh, okay, well, and and so you have to understand all this stuff that you're dealing with before you can set about to effect any kind of a solution that's going to have a chance of being effective. So I started going through, the normal system. Well, you should be able to file an appeal for something that's stupid. Okay, and so I went through that whole process, and then they said, no, sorry, your appeal's no good, but we will assess you $7,000 in attorney's fees for even being here. And I said, wait a minute. I said, you can't you can't assess anything against me more than $20. If you read the 7th Amendment to the Constitution, it says you can't assess anything against me for more than $20 unless I have a jury trial, and so I want a jury trial. And they said, oh, you can't have a jury trial. And I said, why not? They said, oh, because of blah, 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 blah. And I said, wait a minute. I did a word search of the Constitution, state and federal Constitution, and the Bill of Rights and everything, and the word B-L-A-H, it's not in there. And they go, we put it in there with case law. I said, oh, you did it. Well, that's very convenient for you to do that. And so, but I say no. And so then it becomes, who has the authority to say yes or no to any of this stuff?
Right.
Okay. And so that requires, once you realize that the existing system doesn't work, okay, because these guys own and operate the existing system. And so anywhere you go and you say, oh, I want my rights, I want a jury, I want my kids back, there's no way I should have to pay $5,000 a month in child support. Now I'm $50,000 in arrearages, and now I'm in jail. Okay?
Right.
This is going on all over the country. And so, and I said, well, what authority do you have to put me in jail? And there's no statute, nothing in the Constitution. They said, well, we've made up a court rule that says that we can put you in jail and keep you there as long as we want. No release date. And I go, okay, all right. So now the answer to that is no. How do we affect no? You know, when you find yourself in a situation where there's no recourse, did the founding fathers leave us with nothing? Okay, and the answer is no.
Right.
Thomas Jefferson wrote it up very specifically, and all we have to do is follow his recipe. That's where we're going with this right now.
Yep. It's you know, this is the same issue across our entire country. If you see some of my interviews or some of my live feeds, you know, I'm trying to drum this into people that we have rights. We're fighting beating a dead horse, so to speak, in the sense of trying to get rights that you already have. A lot of my interviews or live feeds, I discuss the fact that I started out originally called National Coalition Family Court and CPS Reform. Sorry, your picture went out there. We cannot reform something that is this insane.
Well, let me just give you another tidbit of information. Okay.
Yep.
Is in order to correct any process that's dysfunctional. That's what we have. We have a dysfunctional process.
Oh, it's horrible.
Is you have to it's essential that you understand what the nature of the dysfunctional process before you can devise any kind of corrective measures that have any hope of being successful. Okay, so these guys are, number one, it's all about money. We know this.
Yeah, it's very clear.
And so everybody in the country needs to be bankrupt. Okay, and oh, by the way, children are valuable commodities, so those have to be bought and sold in whichever manner provides the most money to the people who need all this money. Okay, and so the way they've done it is very, very simply stated as they've created something called unchecked judicial power. Okay, that's an essential concept to understand. Unchecked judicial power means I can do whatever I want, and nobody can do anything about it. Okay,
crazy.
And so it's something that's intuitively obvious to anybody, I think, once they put two and two together. Unchecked judicial power, and then after that, the specifics of how they acquired it and what that means. Okay. Number one, we spoke about it a second ago, was juries. If you look at the Seventh Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and you look at any state constitution that you want to pull up and look at, I've probably got I'm going to say 20, maybe 25 state constitutions on my hard drive, and they have almost without exception. You can word search the thing for the word inviolate. INVIOLATE. It means it may not be violated.
That's right.
And so, in my briefs to the judge, they said, "Well, you can't have a jury." And I said, "Wait a minute. What part of the word inviolate do you have discretion to violate?"
Exactly. Exactly.
And the answer is the court rules don't have it in there, so you can't have it. And I go, "Oh, okay." So. So we're working, and then let me go to the other side of it, and then this is even more important, actually. It's just both of these. If you file a complaint against an attorney's supposed to represent you, defend your rights. Okay,
that's right.
But you just give them $25,000-$30,000, and then you find out that they don't do anything. Okay, and so then you file a complaint with the state bar. And in Arizona, it's 3,688 complaints were filed last year, and they actually took action against 7.
Yeah.
And so it's about 99.8 or 99.9% of the time the complaints are going to be dismissed.
That's right.
And these guys are not regulated. Okay,
Mhm.
so what that means, they're free to steal,
Mhm.
to promote conflict, to push this litigation along, and sometimes for 10 or 15 years, depending on how old the kids are.
Yeah, it's
You're
out.
going to fight over the kids. You're going to be in a constant state of turmoil and hatred and everything. And no matter what you say to the state bar, they're not going to do anything. So now, if you have a lawyer that's regulated by another lawyer, is that lawyer regulated?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the answer to any competent, intelligent person is, well, heck no, they're not. Okay.
Mhm.
And so but they are regulated to the point where if they don't do what the courts want them to do, the courts can arbitrarily pull their license to practice.
Mhm.
Okay. So the courts exert coercive control over all the attorneys, and these attorneys, they serve in the legislature. They advise the legislature. They advise the governor. They populate the state attorney general's office. They populate the county attorney's office, the city prosecutor, everybody. Okay, so what you got there, now what you've got is a collapse of the separation of powers.
Mhm.
Okay, so one branch of government is not going to do anything to check the other branch of government because the attorneys all know what's best for us, and we're stupid, and we don't know anything. Okay, and so the attorneys are the only ones with any authority, any power, and they control all three branches of government. Okay, so we have to address that issue, which is who has the authority to regulate attorneys. And so if you do the deep dive into the Constitution, the answer is not the courts. Okay, but their case law that they've created for themselves says, oh yeah, we have the authority to do it, so we're going to do it. And so that's what we have to figure our way around, how to correct that, and it's correctable. Okay, yeah. Because the founding fathers left us with the tools that we need, and but the tools are not what people are accustomed to. This is something that people the new concept is, what did the founding fathers have, and what did they use back when everything else failed to work? Okay, and when nothing else works, well, then there's other things that are available to you, and so we're just going to use whatever works. Yeah. Okay. If you try something and it doesn't work, well, then you try something else. It's a simple concept.
And this is definitely not working.
So we're working on significant change here that's going to be rolled out, in the short term. I think it's not long term. I mean, if we're having this same discussion 10 or 15 years or 20 years from now,
no, we cannot.
I mean, that's failure. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have to go with what works, and so that's what we're doing. Well, we're simply, the basic concept is all power of government arises from the consent of the people.
That's right.
Okay, so these people they have forfeited their authority over us because they violated our rights, mm-hmm. and therefore we have under these circumstances. This is not to be used for everything. Okay, this is only to be used in limited circumstances where you have something called the. I'm just looking at the document here. It says it shall not be for light or transient matters. Okay, so it has to be important, and it has to have no end in sight. Okay, and after that, and these guys have been doing this stuff for the last 40, 50 years, and so courts of equity. Have you ever heard that term?
Yes.
We'll say you can't have a jury because you're in a court of equity. We don't have juries in court of equity because of common law, British common law, and then blah blah blah. Okay, and we all know what that means. Okay, and if you study the history of courts of equity, you'll find out it was started by a guy named Lord Chancellery back in the 1600s or whatever. And equity means fairness. And they created these courts of equity because sometimes a court of law, if they follow the law precisely, it would render a verdict that might not be fair. Okay?
Right.
Like maybe women or children would be put out on the street, and the judge needed discretion to make a decision that's not necessarily in keeping precisely with the law. So they took juries out, gave the judges all the discretion, called it a court of equity. And so now these judges have taken that concept and turned our civil courts into a branch of the civil courts into family court and called it a court of equity and say, now we have no juries, we can do whatever we want.
Right, which is against, yeah.
And what they don't know is that in England in 1848, they had a royal commission, assigned a royal commission to reform their courts of equity. And one of the big things that they did to reform the courts of equity is they put juries back. But that was in 1848. See, now our legal geniuses.
I'm just gonna hold on. There's a question coming in, and I believe a woman came in the middle of what you've been saying, and so I can't say for sure. But Charlene, you've missed the whole beginning, so you're just going into what you think he's saying. You need to go back and watch it from the beginning. I'll just leave it at that. He's actually agreeing with what you're saying. He's coming against what the courts are doing. He's coming against the fact that the courts are violating our Constitution. And if anyone watches my show, you know that I emphasize the fact that our Constitution is being trampled in the family courts, which is an utter violation of all of our rights. And that's basically what he's doing. He's reiterating that, and he's going into the laws and how they're violating them. Okay? All right. Thank you. I'm sorry about that, Marty. Please continue.
That's fine. That's cool. That's okay. Just to give you an example of how they are, is I looked at the oath that attorneys have to swear in Arizona, at least. They have to swear an oath to support the in this almost precisely the way the thing reads. They have to swear an oath to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona in the form prescribed by the court. Okay? So what does in the form prescribed by the court mean? Oh, the form prescribed by the court is the court rules. Okay? So if you look at then it also means by inflection is that the court rules are what attorneys are supposed to follow, and they're supposed to disregard the Constitution and the statutes, the whole 9 yards. Follow the court rules only. Okay, and so, like I said earlier, we have a rule 92 that says judges can put people in jail on a simple order, and they can keep them there for as long as they want with no release date. So they have completely unchecked power to incarcerate anybody they want under Rule 92. And if you look at the statute that's tied to that, it says you can incarcerate somebody if all three of the following things happen. Number one, there's an enforcement order rendered by the court. Number two, you have evidence that order has been served upon the person who's supposed to show up at the enforcement order. Number three, the person doesn't show up. That's it. It doesn't give them any other authority beyond that. Okay, so the guy that I'm working with right now, he shows up for his enforcement order and says, I don't think you're trying hard enough. I'm going to have you arrested right now and thrown in jail. Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh yeah. We see it every day.
And he told me from jail, he says, oh, because you get your one phone call, whatever. And he says, Marty, you wouldn't believe how many guys are in. Now, this is a men's prison, okay? So there's women in there, too.
Oh, no question. Okay. I've got them. I deal with this every day. Women and men.
And he says, you wouldn't believe how many people are in here. And it took a while to even find out under what authority they arrested him.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And because I asked him, I said, you get a speeding ticket. They put your speeding for Arizona Revised Statute 28 something or other, and you can pull up that statute and look at it, and it says, "Oh, speed not reasonable and prudent," and oh, okay, I guess I was speeding. I guess I'll pay the fine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they have authority to do whatever it is. It's in the statutes, and they need to cite it. I like Boston Terriers, by the way.
Thanks.
So then, I mean, if you look at your ticket and they cite the wrong statute, you can take that into court and say, you know what, I didn't pass on a double yellow, and that's not what this thing even says. It says I was speeding. He cited the wrong statute. Throw it out, okay? And they're almost for sure going to do it because they have to, okay? So I beat on this guy that was what are you even charged with? Okay, he goes, I don't know.
They don't. You never know. You never know.
Come on.
No, I mean 99% of the parents that I talk to were all like, "What was I arrested for? What did I do? I don't understand. What did I do?" And they're sitting in jail, and then you've got somebody who's been a repeat, drug dealer, and they're out. It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all.
Well, I went down to the governor's office and I said, this guy needs to be pardoned.
Mm-hmm.
He's seeing a psychologist for psychological issues, and now all of a sudden he's in jail because he didn't do what he was supposed to do. Come on.
We have, yeah.
And they said, oh, go over and see the Board of Pardons and Reprieves or whatever. So I go over there and I say, okay, this guy needs to be pardoned. And they said, well, we can't. Oh, what's he in for? I told them. They said, oh, we can't pardon him. I said, why not? I said, well, we only pardon them if they commit a crime.
Yeah.
I said, oh,
it's crazy. Oh my gosh.
So he can go. He hasn't committed a crime, so he can go home. Mm-hmm. And they go, well, no, he has to stay in jail. And I go, oh, well, then you can give him a pardon then. And so we went back and forth 3-4 times.
Oh my God!
To establish, how nonsensical, and how tyrannical, this whole thing is. Okay, and so there's no way to overstate it. That's exactly what we're facing. We're facing tyrannical government. Period. Okay, I mean, the best way to describe it is King George. Okay, and so if you look at history, is very important because that's where I had to go. Mm-hmm. Because the existing systems don't work. You can litigate this thing till the cows come home, and I mean, I know people that go, oh, if I can only write a little bit better brief, if I can only cite a couple extra pieces of case law, well, then they'll have to rule in my favor. No, they don't. All they have to do is say no.
Right. No, it's true.
That's all they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they do. Mm-hmm. And I had a lady, she said, I won my case in the Court of Appeals. I said, hey, that's great. She said, I'll send you the judge's opinion. You wanted me to send it? Sure. So I looked at it. I read through all this complex legal calisthenics. And I go, wait a minute. I go, this woman didn't brief this complaint on her own. So I asked her. I said, did you have an attorney represent you in this appellate action? And she goes, yeah. I go, okay. So how much did it cost you to get this victory in the Court of Appeals? And she said, $50,000. Mm-hmm. And I go, oh.
Is that all?
So now what is the result? She says, well, the appellate court remanded the thing back to the trial court so we can start over again and litigate it again in the trial court. And so then I go, do you have a guaranteed positive result now from the trial court? She goes, well, no. My attorney said they might rule against me for 2 or 3 other reasons. And so then I go, okay, well then, did you really win your appeals case? And she thought about it for a while, and then she started to cry. And I said, okay, I didn't mean to be to upset you, but I mean, it's evidence, okay? It's pushing the ball down the field. And this is the reason I don't criticize people, or I try not to. Francesca and I got off on the wrong foot a little bit because I came off that way. Because, like I said, if we're fighting this battle 15, 20 years from now, we've lost. This country can't, I don't think this country can survive it because the family is under assault to such a degree. And these people that go into foster care and come out, age out of the system after they've been drugged for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, 80% over 80% of them are homeless. Okay, they're dysfunctional and lost.
That's right.
And then we talked about statistics. Uh, I have rough numbers. There's 48 children a day that at suicide. Of those, 32 of them, 32 out of those 48, have something to do with these courts
Absolutely.
of equity that are actually just, there's nothing equitable about them.
No.
Okay. For veterans, our veterans are have war declared on them. Do you think that their biggest enemy is the Taliban?
No.
Heck no, it's not.
Right.
Because when they come home, they get a stack of paper served to them, and 22 veterans are going to commit suicide today. And of those 22, 17, it has to do with these courts of equity. Okay. And because when you get in there, you just there's no equity. There's only, when you hire an attorney, now you've got two attorneys to fight instead of just one. Okay, and it just goes from bad to worse. And then when you're financially wiped out, you're discarded. And if you commit suicide, well, actually it's better for them. Because they can actually collect money off of that in most cases, because there's going to be life insurance that the other spouse can then use to pay off the huge bill that they still probably owe to their attorney. Okay, and so it's all good for them. I was going to say it's all good, but of course we know it's not.
Well, I mean, and that's one of my main things in switching the word reform to the word abolish this entire system, and just continuously doing what you're doing, educating the masses that we have rights, we've always had rights, because they've been, it's simple, and it's a dumbing down of the nation that has been allowed for way too long. And in that dumbing down process, people are being trampled in these family courts and in this child predator service business, because it's a business. And between the combination of educating people, taking out what they thought was truth, such as, women and children have no rights. No, that's not true. If you're a person, human being, you have rights under our Constitution. That they can just come in your house and take your children. No, that's not true. So, but what we have to continue to do is not just educate the masses, but unify the masses. And one of the things that we've found to be successful, and in a very short period of time, is the exposing of these judges and these predators, these caseworkers, lawyers, whoever they may be. Now, we also emphasize the ones that are actually, that do have integrity, that do want to do the right thing and are trying, because all these other bozos give a bad name to everyone. But what we do, one of the tactics that we're using, and it's working, is when a judge refuses to return children to a safe and loving home, or just does any kind of abuse that you just talked about, we expose them the following day. We have a preset recorded message, and we have people appointed all over the country to record that parent and what they've been through, with photographs of bruises and sex abuse and forensic medical evidence, or whatever whatever information we have, whatever evidence we have that courts don't take in. And then the next day, that judge is exposed all over the internet, which gets viral in a matter of minutes, goes viral. And they don't like that. We finally found something that they don't like. Because, see, they're hiding behind their buildings. They're gag ordering parents to shut them up, just like any bully would do. That's what a bully does. They're violating rights all over the country. And then they're scaring people, intimidating people to think that, well, you can't do this, you can't talk about it, you can't show it, you can't expose it. Well, yes, we can, and that's exactly what we're doing. So I do believe that the combination of, the value of the work that people are doing throughout the nation and trying to expose it, trying to educate those that have been dumbed down for so long, thinking that, oh, well, I'm not allowed to, I have to do it this way. My caseworker says I have to do this. My judge says I have to do this. Really? Really? Excuse me, who are these people? Do they love your children? Are they in your home? Are they feeding them, clothing them, dressing them, putting a roof over their head? I think not. So why, first of all, why are you calling them your anything? They're not. It boggles my mind that we have allowed this to happen in such a, what, 40, 50 years, I think, is about the amount of time that this abuse has been occurring to American families.
Okay, I'm gonna throw a couple tidbits at you because you opened up a bunch of opportunities right there. This stuff has been evaluated by people who are real experts, and I'll refer you to a book called The Fraternity. Fraternity, just the way it sounds, okay, Frater. It's written by a guy named Molloy, Molloy. Okay, it's on Amazon. It looks like the book is about to disappear. Now, books like this tend to disappear, and they go out of print, and nobody can get them. Okay, and so, but this judge started in 1947 to practice, and then he became a judge, went through the entire system, and he said, well, when we started, the legal profession was an honorable profession, and here's how it evolved into what it is now and why. Okay, and then he says what we need to do to correct it. And he says one of the most important things, it's on page 228 of that book, if you happen to pull it up, you can get Kindle on the thing if you want. And on page 228, it basically says to separate the two components of the fraternity into its individual parts of judges and lawyers. Okay, so hey, we're not making stuff up. Okay?
Right.
But guys that are crazy, people
Right.
are crazy.
Right.
The legal profession needs to be regulated, period, by the people, not lawyers. Okay, and then the other thing that you talked about was, holding these judges accountable. Okay, and so that's it. That's exactly where we're going with we're doing exactly that. Okay, but we're using a different method. We're using a method that has been written down as being effective and necessary for the past 800 years. This is the method that's been used for 800 years because judges need to be accountable.
Absolutely.
And that method is called juries.
That's
It was first documented in the Magna Carta in the year 1215, chapter 39. And so all we have to do is take what's there in the Constitution and just put it back.
That's right.
And just say, the people have the authority over their government, and that we have the tools described by Thomas Jefferson, and it worked with King George, and we're that's who we're dealing with. We're dealing with King George.
If you go to change.org, impeach Anthony McGinty, the top video, if you get a chance to look at it, I'll try to send it to you as well, Marty. But anybody that's watching right now, change.org, impeach Anthony McGinty. If you go to that, just Google it. The top video is an advocate right before me, and then right after me, I'm saying exactly what you're saying, identically. It's mind blowing. And the thing is, it's not even putting it back. It's a matter of the fact that they've just snowed everybody, and everybody just kind of went like sheep to the slaughter to these courts, thinking, oh, no jury trial, okay. Oh, this is what's going to happen today, okay. Oh, I can't speak, okay. What do you? Walked in.
The biggest snow job is when you're your own attorney. Is when your own attorney says, "Oh, I want a jury for this. What? I can't ever see my kids again. What's that about? I want a jury for that." So,
right.
Well, you can't have a jury. Yeah. And your own attorney's telling this.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where the people get snowed.
Yeah.
Is they think, well, if I pay my attorney, he's on my side. He's going to look out for me and my rights and everything. Hell no, he's not. He swore an oath to the court. He's an officer of the court, just like the judge.
There you go.
He doesn't work for you. Your only job is to shovel money at him. That's your function. His function is to process you through the lamb to the slaughter thing. And so you have to, once you understand all these things, then it's not that hard to figure out, because a jury is a simple concept. Now, what is stopping us from creating jury panels and taking rulings from these courts and having them reviewed by jury panels, and the jury rendering a verdict saying, well, we don't like that ruling, so we're going to issue a verdict saying the ruling is void and no longer has force of law, and file it into the case. We think the ruling should be, and now try again. Okay, so then this The difference between this and any individual judge that you go after, okay, is that this is a process change that affects every single judge and every single proceeding across the country. Okay, if you can put something in there where, if you render a stupid verdict that no reasonable person would agree with, okay, you can expect it to be thrown out and sent back to you within a week, maybe 10 days, and you're going to have to start all over again. And oh, by the way, we're going to tell you you're stupid while we're doing it. Okay,
right.
No judge wants to do that. Okay, all we want is for the existing system to work. So if we have that kind of accountability in every single courtroom, okay, that's why we're moving away from targeting individual judges, because if you do that, there's no end to the individual judges that need to be looked at. Okay, so we need a system that looks at every single judge and every single proceeding, and every judge knows that I need to have something as close to equitable as I can get, because if it's not equitable, the people are just going to laugh at the thing and throw it out. Okay, and so we have the authority over the judicial system in the form of a jury, and it's in the Constitution now. It's in all the state constitutions with the word inviolate. You can go find it. It's right there.
Yeah.
Okay, and so there, and the other key component is we're not going to petition the courts to allow us to put juries back into these courtrooms. We're not petitioning them. We're simply issuing law, and we're declaring new law that says the Constitution is what you have to follow. Now, that's not really new law, but if you don't follow it, you're fired.
Yeah. And I think that we need to put the heat on them and the pressure on them as an army in the United States. I mean, this is a global issue, as you know, but in the United States, I think we need to emphasize, continuously applying pressure. I have people that say to me, I can't, and I get it when their lives are in danger, because literally their lives are in danger. This is not a joke. This is a very serious subject, and I do not ever make light of it. But at the same token, we do not have a choice as a people. We have to sit down alone at one point and say, am I going to fight or am I going to hide in a hole? These are our children and the next generations. And then when you make that decision, you have to stick with it and go full force forward. And one of the things that I say is my face will be shown. I will take every action necessary, and I will full force forward fight this horrible, horrible atrocity that is happening to our American families across our nation, period. And so one of the things that we do on this end is we do as much as we can possibly do to network people together so they have somebody to turn to, a shoulder to cry on. But once they get, they brush it off, they get back up, they get back in this war, and they go full force forward like an army, like a soldier, full force forward, and fight these animals, because it's a wicked system, and it needs to be stopped. It has to be abolished, and we have to be respected as a human race again. Not to mention the fact that the violations are so extreme that I do not believe we're going to have a country if this continues. I do not believe we're going to have a leg to stand on if we do not forcefully insist that they start doing the right thing, and if we do not start coming together as a nation. We have to. Whatever color we are, whatever race we are, whatever socioeconomic background we have, it doesn't matter. We need to come together, respect one another, and do this, because it is people. I don't think people realize, because it's individual, they think it's just them. Then they begin to realize how large it is, but just how dangerous it is to the implosion of our nation.
So I'm going to reinforce what you just said, because I deal with everybody in their individual cases, just like you've experienced. I've had my own individual case, okay? And so what we're facing is something that our own individual cases don't matter. Everybody's case collectively is what matters.
That's how we do it. Yeah.
And so what we have to do, each of us as an individual, is say, oh, I got screwed. Okay, you got that out of your system? Fine.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, what are we going to do to fix it for everybody? Because anything that you fix for your case, if it doesn't translate into a fix for the entire system for everybody, for all these kids and all these families, then it you haven't accomplished what you need to accomplish.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where we have to go with this thing, is we have to pull the plug on this thing.
Yeah, we do.
And the way to do it, obviously, the way to do it is to shut off the money. That's it.
Yeah.
No money.
Yeah.
Now what?
Now what? Yeah. Now what?
Whoa.
Yeah.
You know, and who has control over the country?
Right.
The all power of government arises from consent of the people.
That's right. Sovereign nation.
I'm sorry, we don't consent to this nonsense, so you're fired.
That's right.
Okay. And right. So we're going to put juries in these courts.
Mm-hmm.
Not every court. We only need juries in case the court of equity doesn't function.
That's right.
Okay. Most of the time, we don't even get involved. If the court of equity does their job and issues a reasonable ruling, then we don't want to spend time in there listening to all these arguments or whatever. Let the court of equity function.
Mm-hmm.
If the court of equity malfunctions, then somebody can bring that screwed up ruling to one of our juries.
Mm-hmm.
We can issue orders into that case that have force of law.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because we have the authority to do it, as under the concept of popular sovereignty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
that's
anybody
right.
wants to look up that concept right there? That's the foundation of what Jefferson used when he wrote all his documents.
Mm-hmm.
Was popular sovereignty. People govern themselves.
That's right. That's right.
And as soon as the government goes off the rails and becomes absolute despotism,
mm-hmm.
that's the term Jefferson uses. Okay, is that we have the right, we have the duty to throw off such government and to establish new systems that we think best provide for our safety and happiness. These are simple concepts.
Yes, they are.
But they're powerful. And so, is there anything stopping us from creating a 6-panel jury and start having them look at orders that people think they got screwed in family court?
Right.
Nothing. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. And we can write up a document saying this thing has no force of law and is void and unenforceable, and file it into the case. What's stopping us from doing that?
Yeah.
What's stopping us from saying this attorney did this, that, and everything else, and the State Bar didn't do anything, but we, on the other hand, we declare that this attorney is no longer licensed to practice law in the state of New York.
There you go, Amy Ingram.
And then put their names up on the website.
That's right.
And then after we get about 25, 30, 40, 100 names,
mm-hmm.
How do you keep that secret? I need an attorney. Let me look at this list. Oh my God!
Right.
This guy.
Yeah. Look at what the people are saying, not what the bar is saying. Look at what the people are saying about this attorney.
Right.
And
so the people have the final authority over licensure and discipline of the legal profession, and we're going to exercise it.
So
okay?
I love this, and I agree with this 100%, and actually 200%. Because of the time factor, and I want to make sure that this can go through an editing process and be on the television shows because I have a limited time per episode. I'm gonna end it at this point, but I do want to say 2 things. We will be doing a public meeting that I'm going to invite you to. I believe it's going to be tomorrow evening. I'm in the middle of getting that in the schedule, and it's. But I have a core team that I'm going to make sure they've seen this particular interview. Some of them are at work or whatever. Some of them are on. And work very closely with you. I'm going to introduce you to the core team, and we're going to put our heads together and see what we can do together, working together. I'm also going to be in Washington, D.C. on October 21st. I put the event up yesterday. It looks like a good turnout is already starting on there. If you're able to be there, that would be wonderful. It's a meet and greet, and then I'm going to be doing live interviews either in front of the White House if the weather is still good, or in the hotel, which I won't disclose that until closer to the event date. Down there, where we will be putting our heads together too, and doing like a meet and greet, meeting a lot of the people that I've been working with or that have been victimized by the family courts and CPS. So as we continue to full steam ahead, I believe that we are definitely gaining more and more ground. They say knowledge is power. That is true. And working together is really the way to do this, and to just simply put a stop to what's been happening. And I keep saying, and I don't know if you've seen this in any of my interviews, but our giant is far bigger than theirs. And once everybody realizes that, they will not fall under their intimidation any longer. when they see that they have.
There's one more thing I'd like to throw at you real quick as far as timeline is concerned. Is most state legislatures begin their sessions in the second full week of January. Okay.
You're right.
And so our rollout timetable is set to coincide with that. And basically what we're going to do is roll out the part about juries and family court, because that belongs in statute. Okay, now if they don't want to put it in there, we don't care. We're going to implement the thing, whether the statute exists in the Arizona Revised Statutes or someplace else. Okay,
yep.
But we're going to implement it either way. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
But we're timing this to approach the legislature with a document saying we have declared this to be law, and now here it is for you to go ahead and put it in the statute. If you don't want to do it, that's okay, because we know you're controlled by the state bar, and so that's the reason we're doing it. Whether you assent to it or not, it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's, it's kind of a liberating thing.
It is a liberating.
We're going to work with you as much as we can, but if there is no no.
There is no no. I love it.
No is like that. That's not an answer.
No.
Okay.
No.
The only question is, how are we going to protect the people?
That's right.
And so now, if you have a different idea that we can steal good ideas from you, then we want that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if you're going to say, no, we're going to have lawyers stealing our money forever.
Right,
okay,
then we're not going to tolerate
and destroying our families and our children. It's like, okay, well, then, that's just not even on the table. So
right.
Forget it.
Right. Well, and I've also said we're going to be suing them as a national. We're going to be suing them nationally. That's something that we're aiming towards too. But we continue to build the building blocks on the way up to what we're doing in our process. So thank you so much, Marty. It's been amazing. It's been a pleasure. We know we as the American people no longer have faith in our judicial system, but we're going to put that faith back in again, because we're going to take it back over again. So thank you again. We really appreciate this interview today, and we'll get you the full edited version as well, but the live version is on Facebook now if you want to go back and watch that. And thank you all for watching. If you want to be on the show, punished4beingaparent.com. Please go to the TV section of the contact form, and we will be doing a public meeting tomorrow, I believe 7:30 or 8:30 tomorrow evening, but that will be on my Facebook page shortly, so you guys can get on there. And thanks again, Marty, for your interview today. We really appreciate it. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thanks for having me.